Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Paramita Chattoraj from the School of Law, KIIT University. Today I will be discussing about the module relation between the different agencies of the criminal justice system. The learning objectives are to make the learners understand the role of the police in India, to acquaint the learners with the role of the prosecutors and courts, to make the learners understand the role of prison, and to make the learners understand the relation between the police, the prosecution, the courts and the prisons. The state governs through criminal laws and sanctions and thereby discharges the obligation to protect life, liberty and property, in turn preventing individuals from seeking private revenge from any harm or injury received by them. The administration of criminal justice is achieved through the criminal justice system in a state through its various agencies by controlling crime and imposing punishment on persons who violate the law. The federal laws are followed by the police, judiciary and correctional institutes, which form the basic organs of the criminal justice system. However, police and prison are the state subjects, and the state through their police and prison manuals set out the functioning of the police and the prison departments. The Indian criminal justice system has its origin in the common law system and therefore has inherited the adversarial mode of criminal justice administration. At the core of the adversarial mode of criminal justice administration is the neutral judge, who comes to the fact findings from the varied facts presented through various forms of evidences by two adversary parties, namely the prosecution and the defense, and thereupon pronounces the appropriate judgment and sentence. Hardly the judge in his individual capacity takes the initiative of finding the truth, as it is presumed that the facts presented by the parties would lead to the truth. Under such a system, the victim represents a vanishing point and his or her role is limited to being a witness with no personal claim. Justice for the victim is indirectly claimed by the state through the prosecutors. The inquisitorial system, on the other hand, is dominated by the judge, who is involved in the process of truth finding by involving himself in the investigation of the crime, where such a judge is known as the investigating judge, like the juge d'instruction in the jurisdiction of France. In inquisitorial system, power to investigate offences rests primarily with the judicial police officers who act under the investigating judge. They investigate and draw the documents on the basis of the investigation. The judicial police officer has to notify in writing of every offence which he has taken notice and submit the dossier presented after the investigation to the concerned prosecutor. If the prosecutor finds that no case is made out, he can close the case. If, however, he feels that further investigation is called for, he can instruct the judicial police officer to investigate further. The judicial police are required to gather evidence for and against the accused in a neutral and objective manner, as it is the duty to assist the investigation and prosecution in discovering the truth. If the prosecutor feels that the case involves serious offences or offences of complex nature and politically sensitive matters, he can move the judge of instructions to take over the responsibility of supervising the investigation of such judges. Let us now discuss about the role of each of the agency. The efficiency of the criminal justice system could be ensured by bringing about a synergy among the agencies, namely the police, the prosecution and the judiciary, the correctional wing. The system should be such that criminal justice administration becomes simpler, faster, cheaper and people friendly by improving the investigation and trial procedures on professional lines for expeditious dispensation of justice and making the functionaries accountable that will restore the confidence of the common man. Let us now talk about the role of the police. The process of criminal justice administration begins the moment an offence is committed and its information is received by the police. If it is a cognizable crime, then the first information report is registered by the police under section 154 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. the foundation of the criminal trial is laid down by the investigation that begins under section 156 of the CRPC. After insertion of section 166A of the Indian Penal Code by the Criminal Law Amendment Act of 2013, failure to register FIR can invite penal liabilities as well for the police officers up to 2 years of imprisonment. Also laid down by the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court in Lalita Kumari versus Government of UP 2012 volume 4 SCC 1 that registration of first information report is mandatory under section 154 of the Code of Criminal Procedure if the information discloses commission of a cognizable offence, and no preliminary inquiry is permissible in such a situation. If the information received does not disclose a cognizable offence but indicates the necessity for an inquiry, a preliminary inquiry may be conducted only to ascertain whether cognizable offence is disclosed or not. In case of receipt of information pertaining to non-cognizable offence, the police officer under section 155 of the Code of Criminal Procedure will have to take permission of the magistrate, and on receipt of orders from the magistrate, the police officer shall start the investigation. Apart from this, if a complaint is made under section 200 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, the magistrate may order an investigation under section 202 of the Criminal Procedure. The success or failure of the case depends entirely on the work of the investigating officer. The investigation of a criminal case involves in arrest of the accused person under section 41 and collection of evidence in the form of oral statements under section 161 of the CRPC, material or document evidence collected upon search and seizure with warrant under section 94 and 97 of the CRPC, and without warrant under section 165 in connection with investigation of cognizable crimes. If an accused is arrested without a warrant, such person must be produced before the magistrate within 24 hours under section 57 of the CRPC. In case the investigation is not completed within 24 hours, such person must be produced again before the magistrate under section 167 of the CRPC and is upon the discretion of the magistrate to grant the accused further detention either in police custody or judicial custody. Upon completion of investigation, the investigating officer submits the police report under section 173 of the CRPC. In case of receipt of information of death of any person, the police officer shall immediately intimate the executive magistrate of that local jurisdiction and proceed to the place where the deceased person is and make an investigation under section 174 CRPC, and such a process is termed as inquest. Apart from this, the police officer investigating a cognizable offence shall make day-by-day entry in the case diary under section 172 of the CRPC. The police officer may request for medical examination of an arrested person when such arrested person on a charge of committing an offence in such a way that the medical examination would afford evidence under section 53 of the CRPC, and specifically an offence of rape under section 53A of the CRPC. Besides, the police can take certain preventive actions under section 149 to 153. Let us now talk about prosecution. Public prosecution is an important component of public justice system. According to section 301 of the CRPC, a public prosecutor or assistant public prosecutor has the authority to appear and plead before any court in any case entrusted to him. There are several classes of public prosecutors under section 24 read with section 2U of the CRPC. First, public prosecutor appointed by the central government and public prosecutor appointed by the state government under subsection 1. Second, public prosecutor and additional public prosecutor appointed by the state government under subsection 2. Third, special public prosecutor appointed by the central government and special prosecutor, public prosecutor appointed by the state government under subsection 6. The public prosecutor is an important officer of the state and is appointed by the state government under the provisions of the Criminal Procedure Code. To exercise close supervision and scrutiny of work of various prosecuting agencies, to advise the government with regard to filing of appeals and revisions, and to advise the police in all matters and important issues arising during investigation or trial, and to maintain overall control, authority and responsibility for the work efficiency, integrity and discipline of all prosecutors, a Directorate of Public Prosecution was created under section 25A of the CRPC after the 2006 amendment in the code. The head of the prosecuting authority in a state is typically known as Director of Public Prosecution under section 25 capital A of the CRPC. The powers and functions of the Director of Prosecution and the Deputy Directors of Prosecution and the areas of each of the Deputy Directors of Prosecution have been appointed shall be such as the state government may specify. As the law stands now, in terms of section 25 capital A clause 2 of the CRPC, only an advocate with 10 years standing at the bar is eligible to become the Director of Prosecution. To start with, there is a presumption of innocence in favor of the accused. This presumption is seen to flow from the Latin legal principle ei incumbit probatio qui decit non qui negat, that is, the burden of proof rests on who asserts, not on who denies. This is included under section 101 of the Indian Evidence Act of 1872, where it states that whoever desires any court to give judgment as to any legal right or liability on the existence of facts which he asserts must prove those facts. The Supreme Court of India has defined the role and the functions of public prosecutor in the case of Shiv Nandan Paswan versus State of Bihar and others, AIR 1983, Supreme Court 1994, and they are: first, the prosecution of an offender is the duty of the executive, which is carried through the institution of public prosecutor. Second, withdrawal from prosecution is an executive function of the public prosecutor under section 321 of the CRPC. Third, discretion to withdraw from prosecution is that of the public prosecutor and that of none else, and he cannot surrender his discretion to anyone. Fourth, the government may suggest to the public prosecutor to withdraw a case, but it cannot compel him, and ultimately the discretion and the judgment of the public prosecutor would prevail. During sentence hearing under section 235 clause 2 of the CRPC, the public prosecutor puts forward the arguments for pronouncing adequate sentence, keeping in view the circumstances of the crime and the criminal both. He should exercise the discretion keeping in mind the gravity of the offence and the facts and circumstances of the case. Now let us examine the role of the judiciary in the Indian context. In India, an integrated judicial system is there. At the top is the Supreme Court of India, which exercises jurisdiction in different forms, namely writ jurisdiction, appellate jurisdiction, original jurisdiction, advisory jurisdiction, and that is conferred under civil statutes. At the next level is the high courts in the various states. While most states have their own high courts, some states have common high courts. The high courts also exercise writ jurisdiction, regular appellate jurisdiction, as well as the power of supervision over all the courts and tribunals located in the respective states. The third tier is that of the subordinate judiciary at the district level, which is in turn consists of many levels of judges, both on the civil and the criminal side, whose jurisdiction is based on territorial and pecuniary limits. In addition to the subordinate judiciary, there are specialized courts and tribunals at the district and the state level to hear and decide matters relating to direct and indirect taxes, labor disputes, service disputes in state agencies, family disputes, motor accident claims, as well as consumer complaints, to name a few. Generally, for a criminal case, the role of the judge or the court in India starts from the stage of taking cognizance of the criminal case under section 190 of the CRPC, followed by making over of the case under section 192 to the appropriate court having jurisdiction to try the case, or commitment of the case to the Court of Sessions under section 209 of the CRPC. This is followed by the issue of process under section 204 of the CRPC, either by summons or warrant as the case may be. Once all the actors of the criminal justice administration, that is the accused represented by the defense counsel, the prosecutor representing the state as well as the victim, and the judge comes face to face, the trial unfolds. At this stage, the court frames the charge. If the evidence submitted to it and from the opening statement of the lawyers, it comes to the conclusion that the evidence is sufficient enough to start the trial. Conversely, discharges the accused if the evidence is not sufficient. During the whole process of trial, the court's duty is finding of the facts that are relevant from the evidence presented by the prosecutor and the defense, and come to the conclusion of the guilt by making a balance sheet of the aggravating and mitigating factors by the preponderance of probabilities. Once the judgment is reached, and in case it is a guilty verdict, the court proceeds to pronounce the sentence, applying its discretion based again on the aggravating and mitigating factors, the antecedents and the probability of reform of the offender. Finally, let us talk about the correctional institutions. The role of the correctional wing comes at the very end of the criminal justice administration. When court determines the guilt of the accused and pronounces a sentence of imprisonment, and accordingly he is sent to the prison, he spends the prison term with any conditions attached by the court with respect to labor. India is a signatory to the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules 1957 of the treatment of prisoners, and the sentencing policy in the Indian criminal justice system is not punitive, rather it is for the reformation and rehabilitation of the prisoner. This is achieved through therapeutic treatment given to the prisoner during the period of incarceration through education, labor, vocational training and yoga and meditation, so that the prisoner is reformed internally, not to choose the path of crime once again and goes out of the prison. Among the various other provisions under the Prison Act 1894, the following sections are related with the reformation of the prisoners in one way or the other. First, accommodation and sanitary conditions for the prisoners, provisions for the shelter and safe custody of the excess number of prisoners who cannot be safely kept in any prison. Third, provisions relating to mental and physical state of the prisoners. Fifth, provisions relating to examination of prisoners by the qualified medical officers. Sixth, provisions relating to separation of prisoners containing female and male prisoners, civil and criminal prisoners, and convicted and under trial prisoners. Provisions relating to treatment of under trial civil prisoners, parole and temporary release of prisoners. Now, let us analyze the interrelations between the agencies of the criminal justice system. The criminal justice administration is based on the fulcrum of a properly conducted investigation. Under section 156 clause 1 of the CRPC, it is provided that any police officer in charge of a police station may investigate any cognizable case without the order of the magistrate. Section 156 clause 2 further provides that no proceeding of the police officer during investigation shall be called into question. However, in a catena of cases like Nikhil Merchant versus Central Bureau of Investigation 2008 volume 9 SCC 6770 and many others, the high courts have quashed the first information report or the charge sheet or with the police report by invoking the inherent power of the high court under section 482 of the CRPC. The magistrate may also order for an investigation by the police under section 156 clause 3 of the CRPC, and also in a case where the magistrate receives a complaint under section 200 of the CRPC and then orders for an investigation under section 202 of the CRPC. The magistrate takes cognizance of a criminal case on the basis of a police report submitted after investigation by the police or upon a complaint made to the magistrate or any other information received by such magistrate under section 190 of the CRPC. In case of cognizable offences, generally the police investigates and therefore the magistrate has to apply his judicial mind to ascertain whether prosecution of such is required or not. Although Indian criminal justice system is adversarial in nature, but it embraces certain inquisitorial elements as well. whereby the collection of evidence, which in most cases is a police prerogative, may be done by the magistrate through the process of inquiry. Firstly, section 309 CRPC empowers the judge or the magistrate to go for local inspection for proper appreciation of the evidence. Secondly, section 165 of the Evidence Act invests the court with the power to ask any question it pleases in any form at any time to the witness or the parties about any fact relevant or irrelevant, and also to order the production of any document or thing. Thirdly, section 313 of the CRPC in fact makes it mandatory for the trial judge to examine the accused after prosecution evidence is over. This power can be exercised by the court in order to discover or to obtain proper proof of relevant facts. Next, section 311 gives discretion to the court to summon any person as a witness. The second part makes it obligatory to examine witness if it is essential for the just decision of the case. Although the investigative role has been assigned to the judge under the above mentioned sections, but trend of the judicial decisions is that this power is exercised with utmost circumspection and not to supplement the evidence for the prosecution or to fill up the gaps in the prosecution case. Thus, the power under section 311 is virtually rendered nugatory. In case of summons trial procedure, section 255 entitles the court to take into account, in addition to the evidence produced by the prosecution, such further evidence as the court on its own motion causes to be produced. But there is no similar provision in respect of warrant and sessions trial. The court can consider only the evidence produced by the prosecution and not other evidence collected by invoking court's power under section 311. In the Indian criminal justice system, there is a missing link between the police on one hand and the prosecution on the other. Supply of copies to the accused under section 207 and 208 of CRPC is a significant step before beginning with the trial. However, the CRPC does not provide that the police should supply, and no particular stage is mentioned at which the prosecutor receives copy of all the documents relating to the particular criminal case before the trial. Only section 209 clause D CRPC provides that the prosecutor is notified of the commitment of the case to the Court of Sessions. The public prosecutor is the anchor man in all these stages. He has no authority to decide whether the case should be sent up for trial. His role is only advisory. However, once the case has been sent up for trial, it is for him to prosecute it successfully unless for some reason which are not statutorily laid down at section 321, the prosecutor withdraws from prosecution. So far as the system of prosecution is concerned, it is often seen that the best legal talent is not availed for by placing its case before the court. The accused normally is represented by a very competent lawyer by his choice. There is a mismatch in that, as an equally competent lawyer is not there to represent the prosecution or the state, that is the victim also. In the arena of corrections, due to absence of statutory framework, the judiciary in India to develop prison jurisprudence in line with constitutional provisions have evolved with certain mechanisms. The Supreme Court has taken serious note of the prison brutalities and has denounced such practices. With regard to solitary confinement, section 73-74 of the Indian Penal Code leave no room for doubt that solitary confinement is by itself a substantive punishment which can be imposed by a court of law. In Sunil Batra versus Delhi Administration, AIR 1978, Supreme Court 16-1675, Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court brushed aside its attitude of passiveness towards prison administration and declared solitary confinement as unconstitutional unless certain strict guidelines are followed. The courts have also involved themselves in adopting therapeutic approaches of correction in the form of parole. Fine as an alternative to short-term imprisonment as a treatment measure is fine, but as a source of state treasury is injudicious form of punishment. According to section 357 of the Criminal Procedure Code, the fine amount should be given to the victim of the crime. Now, to summarize the above discussion, the functioning of the criminal justice system is a true reflection of the peace and order that the members of the state are enjoying. The prosecutors are the weakest link in the Indian criminal justice system. In spite of the fact that the heaviest burden is laid on the prosecutor's shoulder during the trial, but its position is rattled with weaknesses. The judges in the Indian criminal justice system play quite a passive role as a fact finder rather than a truth finder during trial, which may have an implication on the low rate of conviction in India, which is approximately 45% as recorded in 2014. In every state, the criminal justice system is expected to provide the maximum sense of security to the people at large by tackling crimes and criminals effectively, quickly and legally. More specifically, the aim is to reduce the level of crime in society by ensuring maximum detection of reported crimes, apprehension of the accused, conviction of the accused person without delay, awarding appropriate punishment to the convicted to meet the ends of justice, and to prevent recidivism. Thank you.